This comment from Erin struck me because I've only recently been thinking, man, we of this generation, like the Gen X and millennial generation, who are the sandwich generation of caregivers potentially, where we're caring for our parents and we're caring for our kids, and we are caught in the middle of this nurturing phase of life, and we don't have anywhere to go to look at for advice on this stage of life we're in. And not to sound hoity-toity, but it's like we're pioneering this stage of life, and we'll be the ones to give advice to those after us. And whether it be we're in this stage of hospice like Erin, which I'm holding space for her and her dad and her family, because that journey is a journey and it's a unique one. But what are we doing? Like, what are we all doing right now? And I don't think the generations that came before us have experienced what we're experiencing. And the examples I have are, I have an aunt on my dad's side. She's the youngest. She never moved out of her mom's house. Her dad had passed away when she was a child. And so when she married and had kids, it was just with her mom in the house. And then it's like the dynamic shifted of living with her mom to her mom living with her. But they never parted ways. And she assumed the caregiver role because they never parted ways, as did her 8 other siblings. And she was the caregiver, but I almost don't view it as the same, because they never left each other. That's not to say the shifts and dynamics wouldn't be the same, but I almost feel it's different, in my humble opinion, from outsider observations and secondhand aftermath conversations heard. And then, for example, on my mom's side, my mom has an older brother, and he assumed a decision-making, caregiving role for their parents. He does not live in our state, so he visited like once a year and would do any odds and ends cleanups in person, meaning I'll call it paperwork cleanup, not like physical cleaning. And he would have the phone conversations once a week with his dad that may also have included some decisions and conversations about health and finances, etc. And by then, my mom and my dad were having their own major health problems, and so my mom was not a part of that whatsoever. And I don't know if she ever would have been. Honestly, I don't know. But my uncle never did like the physical caregiving. When my grandpa's wife passed away, they were both living in an independent living development community. And then after my grandpa had a stroke when he was 98, he moved into like a group home caregiving situation before quickly then moving to hospice in a nursing home. But my uncle never assumed a physical caregiving role because it was not needed until my grandpa had a stroke. I don't know how, but even up until 98, he was an independent living dude. He was the hunk of the community, highly sought after by the ladies. But even the 2 people I could look to for caregiving role model, it's not the same. It's not in any way the same as I'm experiencing. And my experience is individual and unique, even to others my age doing what I'm doing. And I think a lot of it is what we'll call, when the boomer generation were kids, to the silent generation and greatest generation, depending upon everybody's age and who was born when, we had the advent of assisted living and nursing homes, where prior to that, there was more of a village to take care of the previous aging generation at home. And with that advent, in like the 80s, like it started in the 60s, and then in the 80s became the assisted living type of situation. You know, we saw the boomer generation looking with their parents at that as a caregiving situation. Did that make sense? Because we didn't always have nursing homes and assisted living. Like it was born out of poorhouses in like the 18th, 17th, 19th century, where the elderly who had no money and, quote, feeble who had no money went to these poorhouses. And over time, with Social Security and Medicaid and all of this stuff, we eventually grew to where we are now. So our generation, who is having boomer parents, and I'm not using any of these terms derogatory, I'm literally just using it as a way to distinguish the generations and who is who. This generation doesn't necessarily have the means to go into nursing and assisted and independent living situations. So we can't, meaning millennial Gen X who are in the thick of it, we can't look at that as options. And or we don't want to. And or there is a stigma if that is what you choose to do, even if it is the parents themselves choosing that situation. It's almost as if when the boomers were the kids and their parents were the ones to go into these living situations. It was new, it was modern, it was unique, it was, this is an option. And now, finances aside, it's deemed shoving off, casting aside. And I think it's also because of the condition a lot of these places are in. And the care in it might not be stellar. And ultimately, with taking care of the aging comes with a responsibility boomer generation as kids didn't have with their parents of increased doctors and medications and tests. And we have that now. We have the in excess doctors and tests and equipment, and we're figuring it out as we go, because it's fairly new in execution in living it, you know. And it's so easy to say, go get help in terms of like respite care, support groups. And my mom does have a care manager who helps keep the paperwork end of things going, like her benefits and her you know, monthly adult diaper delivery and wipe delivery and medical glove delivery and her food delivery. Like, she keeps that end up. I update her on health changes, which could change the you know, plan of care, but ultimately it's on my shoulders, my husband's shoulders, as we are a unit here. And given I get paid as a home health aide, but if we had somebody come in and do it, it's still only 10 hours a week. It's split up in a 6-hour and a 4-hour chunk between homemaking, which is cleaning, laundry, etc., and personal care, bathing, clipping nails, just interacting. In 10 hours, you'd have to decide how you want to spread that out. And most facilities, most agencies can't find people to come on the weekend. Can't come in evenings or early mornings. And a lot of agencies require a family member to be home as, a safety precaution, like a witness. So, I don't know. I don't know what my point is here. Just to say, we are navigating this without previous. We don't have a mentor. We don't have that. And I wish there was a handbook that wasn't just mailed to me from someplace giving the generic guidance of making sure I have me time, making sure blah blah blah, because those are words. Those are just words. And I feel for my friends who are now just entering this phase of life. My friends aged between like 35 and 45. I had a friend who, she's a little older than me, and she just finished her journey as her aunt's caregiver. Her aunt recently passed, but she was her aunt's caregiver. And I've had friends who recently lost parents who had only just a short time in this role, but it was a journey nonetheless. And having been in it for already 25 years, 15 years, math is mathing right now, having already been in it and getting even more in it, I watched from the outside with my heart breaking for them that they're going through this, even though I've been going through it, and I know I can empathize. I'll never know, because everything is so unique. And so when I see people comment that they are in the thick of it, I feel so sad. I don't know. But if you're in it, you're entering that phase, you see that path coming. I hope the journey, it's gonna be hard. I can only hope the journey goes gentle on you, and I hope it doesn't change for the negative anything of who you are, of who your parents are, or aunt, uncle, grandparent, cousin, whomever. I hope it doesn't alter negatively the relationship you have with the individual. But yeah, there's no handbook. But you're not alone, unfortunately. And I'm here too if you need to vent it. And just know it's an ever-evolving journey. You might get comfortable. It could be years of status quo. I'm that person. And then when it changes, it changes. And there's a lot to come to term with that. All right, I can just blab and talk in circles, but yeah, there's no handbook. But we're doing it, huh? I'll talk to you later. Bye.